Hello and welcome to our next installment of Trustee training. I am looking forward to speaking about human resources today. So these trainings are being recorded and they are available on the State Library YouTube channel, the State Library Niche Academy, and we also have the videos up on our Library Board of Trustees LibGuide. The LibGuides can be found on the State Library website. There is a link on the button further down on the page, and there is also a link above the search bar on the home page. Once you get to the LibGuides, they're organized by subject. Click on Library Boards and choose Public Library Board of Trustees. So who am I? My name is Monica Struck. I am the Public Library Specialist at the State Library. And just in case it comes up, I am not a lawyer, so this webinar is not legal advice. Please consult your local legal counsel with relevant questions. Okay, so agenda. We're going to start off by discussing interviewing and hiring, and we'll talk about evaluations and performance reviews. We'll touch on performance improvement plans and termination, and finish off with some board self-evaluation. So a quick review. As far as human resources go, the library board is responsible for employing a qualified librarian. So you recruit, hire, and annually evaluate the director. You are the director's supervisor. You also adopt personnel policy and set adequate salary and benefits for all staff. So the library director is responsible for recruiting, hiring, and evaluating all the rest of the library staff. And they also suggest improvements needed in salaries, working conditions, and personnel policy. Interviewing and hiring. It's important to do this in a way that is as unbiased as possible. And the best way to do that is to start with a good job description. So the job description will provide salary or salary range, duties to the best of your knowledge and ability to list them, as well as the environment in which they'll be working. And when you're interviewing, it's important to, again, remove bias and treat candidates equally. The best way to do this, I have found, is to ask every candidate the same questions in the same order, and to evaluate them off of the same rubric. So the job description helps you evaluate, who would be the best qualified, narrow down the candidate pool, and then the interviewing allows you to, narrow it down further. And then you identify the candidate that you think would be best able to fulfill the duties of the job. Every library is doing the hiring differently. Some directors are, hired, under the city, but as long as you, the board, are, responsible for, the supervision of the director, you are fulfilling your duty in Century Code. So training, evaluations, and performance reviews. When you have a brand new director, it is important that they have the information they need to do the job well. So we encourage you to do training at the local level. That means the library board president, staff who have been on hand for a while, work together so that the director has the information they need at the local level. The state library provides a new director orientation for all new directors. So if you have a director who is leaving, or you are going to be hiring a new director soon, please reach out to the state library. Keep me in the loop, because having a new director orientation for new directors is part of the developing level standards of the public library standards. And so I want to, help the libraries be in the best position to succeed. Please note that the orientation I give at the state library is a broad overview of state library services, and touch on some library law items that you may not know you're responsible for when you sign on. So it's very important not to forget the training at the local level so that they know your local policies, and things of that nature. Especially, at least on an annual basis, it's important to conduct a performance review. And again, every library board is doing this differently, but it's the best way to touch base with the director and let them know how you think they're doing. And so you can do this in, any way that you want to. A very common way is, again, to have a rubric, with a scale, meets expectations, exceeds expectations, does not meet expectations. And just going through, essentially, you can build it off of the job description. How well are they meeting the duties outlined in that job description? And it's also an opportunity to review the job description. Is this still the case? Does it need to be updated? Are they doing more? Did they, delegate some responsibilities that make more sense in another area? So it's important to do this evaluation. It does happen on occasion when the employee isn't, meeting, in one or a number of areas, and it might be necessary to implement a performance improvement plan, also known as a PIP. So when this happens, it's important to sit down with the employee and, talk about what you are seeing, what you would like to see instead, and make a plan on how to get there. So you make the plan, the employee goes out and, does the steps outlined in the plan. You check in periodically. The check-ins are built into the plan. And then, you meet up after a previously agreed upon part of time, and you say, okay, you have taken the steps, you have improved, we can discontinue the PIP and keep moving forward. Or alternatively, the improvements aren't happening, in which case you need to either, change the performance improvement plan or terminate if needed. No one likes to fire people, but sometimes terminations have to happen for the health of the agency. If the performance improvement plans aren't working, or if the director has, engaged in a flagrant violation of policy or the law, you can, termination is always on the table if you need it. But it's good to, go through all of the steps, because it's the smart HR thing to do. Okay. Now, mostly because I don't want to leave the board completely off the hook, the director isn't the only person who should get evaluated on an annual basis. I think it's a good idea for the board to take a look at themselves, how they are working together and how well they are supporting the library in its mission. And there is a tool I came across that I think might be helpful for boards as they, do this self-reflection. So this is borrowed from another presentation. I have linked to the original presentation on the LibGuide and in the slides, and I highly encourage you to take a look at this presentation that was made by a library in Indiana. It's an interesting way of looking at things. But first, I would encourage each board member to consider what type of board member they are. So there are, for the purpose of this presentation, 4 types of board members. We have the resume builder. They don't really care about the library. They're just joining the board to add it to their resume. They'll put in their time and they'll move on. Then we have the angry taxpayer. They don't particularly care about the library. They are there to push forward an agenda, intent on micromanaging. Then we have our managers and engineers. They love the library. They micromanage because they can't help it, but they don't have the working knowledge of the library to, really be truly helpful. And then we have the bibliophile who loves the library, very hands-off. And then, so once you've, kind of placed yourself in, one or multiple categories, or maybe even somewhere in the middle is nice. You can come together as a board and discuss your board personality. So ideally, again, we're hoping to be in the middle, in the sweet spot. But let's say we have a board full of resume builders. So a whole bunch of people who are, just putting in the time, aren't really interested in the library. Then the library starts to die because of devious inaction. The board isn't providing any support, very hands off, and, the library has no guidance. If you have a, board full of angry taxpayers, then we have death by action. The library is struggling because, they have so many people micromanaging and not happy with the library, and it's just really hard for the library to succeed when the board thinks they're horrible. Then if we have a whole bunch of well-intentioned micromanagers, we have death by smothering. The board really wants the library to succeed, but they are nitpicking every single detail of the library. And so that's really hard for the library too. But if we have a board full of bibliophiles, you'd think that would be the best kind of board. Everyone loves the library, but then the library is suffering death by inattention because the board thinks the library is so awesome and amazing. They are never pushing for improvements. They just say, fine, whatever you do is going to be great. And to succeed, the library needs to be challenged. They need to be pushed. So again, looking at trying to see how you can get your board personality in the sweet spot is something that you could do in the overall board evaluation. Now I will open up for questions. Here is our contact information slide. But then just to make sure I'm not missing anybody, I will stop sharing my screen. And hearing no questions, I will let you go. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.